James, talent
Addison.
over obsession or obsession over talent. Which one wins?
Obsession.
Interesting. Details, my man.
I mean, talent doesn't hurt, but I think there's sometimes. Well, I can't speak as too generalized. I mean, I just think in my industry, I mean, yeah, there's some talents that help, but most of it's trained, and the person who will train and stick with it and get through it is the person obsessed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, talent never hurt, though. That's a nice little boost, but that isn't the only thing that matters. Because I've seen people in this industry that come in definitely talented, and they're going in no time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Just get absorbed by the economy, I guess.
Well, no, because the person that's obsessed doesn't quit, or somebody who's at least persistent or not a freaking sissy. You know what I mean? Like, you got some people who just, I think things come to them easy, and because they got some talent, and then when they got to work hard, man, they don't have it. Your talent does not determine how far you will go. Yeah. I very much believe that. You take the most talented person, immediately go to sports, professional sports. The most talented guy, though, doesn't matter if he isn't also probably the hardest working guy in the room.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about Jordan and Kobe and stuff, like how hard they would practice, how hard they would train.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the concept called the dip?
No.
And I'm gonna put these two together here in a second. So the dip is what happens to everybody when they get into anything. So, let's say, for example, you get into woodworking. Right? Mm-hmm. At some point, there will be there's the kind of like a bell curve, right? So it starts out really good. You're enjoying it. And at some point, it starts to fade downward. Right? That's called the dip.
Okay. Yeah.
And then that's the point where you lose motivation. That's when you're like, man, is this even working? You start second guessing yourself. You start adding things to your mindset to where it's like, if this was meant to be for me, it would be easy kind of thought process. And then you get past that, right? People work continuously through that. And then they start to see that upward trend, right? That's usually where you see people take off. Because everything you do is not always going to be easy, right? Some things will be, but at some point, everything you do in life will have a dip. And the thing is, with that process, you never know how long that dip is going to be.
That's cool. Yeah. So we always call that, you hear people talk about the burnout or the rut.
Yeah.
But no, I had that conversation actually with someone in my office not that long ago. I was like, hey, it was noticeable. There was a very clear paradigm shift there from where it was like you finally realized like, hey, I like this industry and I want to stick in it and I want to continue to learn. And I was like, your growth from there just starts skyrocketing. How you engaged, the ideas you brought, the things you got done during the day, like you became a real, like you started sticking out in the group.
Yep.
And yeah, so that I very much believe it. I didn't know that the term for it was the dip, but 100%, man, I've seen that multiple times in my company. Because you go on somewhere, you start a new project or enter a new part of the business, or like I said, just new to the company as a whole. At first you just have this natural motivation because it's new and it's hopefully exciting in some way, right? And then you're right, man. That new wears off. New wears off and everything. So then you start kind of maybe even question, which I think is healthy. I mean, I think that's really healthy, right? I mean, because it's better than never engaging on what you really want anyways, right? Like, you imagine spending your life like that?
Yeah, no, not a chance.
So I think it's healthy.
100%. And so the the reason I brought this up is actually a book by Seth Godin.
Hmm.
Yeah. And he explains the whether it's a theory or whatever. Um, but he goes in depth on basically explaining the dip and how you gain the motivation, you start losing motivation, and then at some point during that dip, you start getting past that, right? If you can just hold tight and just deal with the stuff that's in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
as bad as it is, you can soar back up.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's a lot of thought process to that. There's a lot of process or thought process to that because like you said, it is good for you. It is good for you to actually have that test of, is this what you want? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
the dip comes in many shapes and forms, right? It
Yeah.
could be, you know, a broken leg. It could be, if you're in sports, it could be anything.
Yeah.
The dip is always going to be there. It could just be a mental fight.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, once you get past that, you're going to move upward. When that happens, who knows? It's all dependent on talent or obsession,
Yeah.
right? If you're
What
just
I'm curious about is, with you saying that, like, if you looked at that line on the graph and you watch it go up and then dip and then go up, if you zoomed out, I wonder how many times that happens throughout a career somewhere. Maybe they're smaller,
mm-hmm.
but I mean, because I'm sitting here just kind of thinking of myself, the dips, you know.
that
I mean,
that's the
right
point
now
of
is
the
a dip for
conversation,
me, dude. Right
huh?
now is completely a dip for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obsessed with what I'm doing. I asked for this, but like, it is, I've never been so scattered in my life. Like, it's just all over the place, distracted. It's tough for me to focus on one thing because there's so many things going on at once. I carry it home. I wake up with it in the morning. And look, I'm thankful for the opportunity. So I'm not complaining. I'm just stating facts. I am in this is perfect. I mean, like, I am in a dip. And I know on the other side, there's going to be this huge growth for me, like, individually, just what I'm capable of, the leader I become, the company I continue to try to create and build, the culture, all that. But man, it is beating me to death, and it's tough because, like, people need me here. And it's like, well, what piece are you going to get of James today? You know, is it going to be the most focused piece of him that he's got that day? Or is it going to be the crumbs where, you talk to him and then you finish your sentence and he looks at you and go, what'd you say?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's who I am. And I'm not normally like that. Normally I'm very dialed in. I know what I want, how I want to get it. Like, I have the answers for stuff. If we don't have the answers, I know where to go to get it. Like, all that, man. I'm firing on all cylinders. Now it's like, dude, who are you getting today? And I hate it. I
Yeah.
recorded a company video to get out to everybody because we have all these locations, and it's just people can, instead of trying to get on one meeting. So I recorded a video Tuesday night. It was a 10-minute video. I had all my talking points, the main things we needed to hit. I always, after I record the video and it kicks over to me as a link to email out to everybody, I watch it first, make sure I didn't miss anything or state anything incorrectly. And dude, I watched that video. I, I sounded like an idiot. Like, I was so scattered. I didn't even make sense to myself. And I knew what I was trying to say. I deleted it and I was like, I gotta go home. I gotta get some sleep and I'll record this in the morning. So I had to come back in the next day and record it because I was just so spent. So I hate being like this. I hate it, man.
So my question to you is, how are you getting back to being present? Just in how are you catching yourself throughout the day? And then what are you doing to resolve that?
Um, Great question. So what I'm trying to do is, like, if I work on something I'm trying to do, unless it's just urgent, which it seems like almost everything's urgent right now because there's a deadline. I'm trying to, if it needs to get off my plate and go to somebody else, we're trying to disseminate that information as quick as I can so I can move on. Right. So it's not me trying to come back to it later, then scatter, trying to remember what the information was I needed to disseminate. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to be quicker on that. And I'm also just trying to communicate where, if I am scattered, owning it. Hey, I'm scattered. I was telling one of my folks here, I was like, look, number one, I'm hard of hearing, which I am. But number two, like right now, I'm so all over the place. Like, you literally got to look at me. If I'm not making eye contact with you, you need to be under the assumption I am not listening to what you're saying. And I owe you my attention. So like, you need to say, hey, I need you, right? Like, you need to be very direct with me. If you do not do that, you're not going to get it right now. So I think even just saying that, like communicating that is important as well, right? Hey, this is what you need to get my attention right now. Mm-hmm. This is how you need to make sure I'm actually focused so you don't stay frustrated, because I don't want to frustrate everybody, you know?
I do. My question goes a little bit deeper than just that. As far
That's
as
all I got.
No, see, yeah. And so I guess what I'm, how are you yourself grounding yourself before either these conversations or just daily?
I got nothing special. So I'm not like getting up and meditating right now or any of that extra. Like, all I'm doing, which maybe that's probably not what you meant. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to stay as organized as I can on everything I got to get done. I try to block stuff off. So like right now, you know, I don't even know how many emails I have right this moment. But when I do, like, I got a little thing running where like, hey, you've looked at emails and everything that's hot, but you got to go back through things that still need to be worked. So literally, I'm keeping track of my dates. Like, hey, here's where you stop. Now you need to take an hour and you go back to that date and go in depth. What can be deleted? What can be offloaded to someone else? Or what has to be worked by you, and get it done and go right back down the list. So like, I'm doing things to stay dialed in on that. But truthfully, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to stay positive on where I'm going, because I am very excited about that, and like, keep that date in mind. Like, I know I'm going to have a good bit off of me on 12/1. Mm-hmm. So right now it's just like, dude, you do whatever. You run as hard as you got to do. You just run yourself on the ground if it takes it. But like, you just got to get 12/1 right now. At 12/1, you can look up and solve some other problems. But right now, you got to get to 12/1. You got to get the stuff done by 12/1.
All of that is 100% beneficial.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And my question to you now is, how do your feet feel?
How do my feet feel? Feel pretty good. I'm not following, because I'm saying I'm running hard.
No. So genuinely, how do your feet feel with like the connection between your foot and the ground?
I mean, like, I don't know, it feels normal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just saying, kind of describe it. So how does the gravity feel on your feet?
A little heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like my footing feels sure.
Okay. And so, but that's, you going through that process is actually a grounding process. You actually thinking about how your feet feel and how your hands feel at the moment is a moment for you to actually be grounded, right? And so if your hands feel cold, if your hands feel clammy, if your hands feel hot, like being able to actually think about that and address how your hands or how your feet feel, because we can put ourselves in those positions, allows you to actually ground yourself and be focused and be present of your body and your state.
Okay. So you're saying, so let me make sure I'm following you here, because I don't know. Like I said, I'm I'm struggling with this. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, hey man, my hands feel they feel like they could break something in half right now.
Mhm.
They're a little bit chilly because I got this old ass office. It's a little drafty. Me connecting to that grounds me. So you're just saying it's putting me into the present.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. And how does that benefit me though?
It allows you to actually understand where you're at. Like just as a person, but also a grounding moment so that you can actually be present in what's happening.
Okay.
Right. It could be as simple as um like for me, I keep my AirPods in my pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm having a conversation, I'll just rub on my AirPods in my pocket, right? Because it allows me to actually connect the two things. Like
Okay.
I'm not putting all of my thought process on how the iPods feel in my or the AirPods feel in my pocket,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm putting the two together and it allows me to actually stay present in a conversation when everything's on fire and it's a firehouse over here
Mm-hmm.
and I've got to be in 6 different places, but I'm in one at the
Yeah.
moment and I'm in a conversation. Me doing that or holding this baseball in my hand, just rubbing the threads, like all of these things give me an opportunity to actually realize that I'm being present in myself. I'm focused on you having the conversation, and I'm understanding that what is in front of me is important by simply just being present where I am.
Okay. All right. I'm following you. So there is something I do. You just saying this kind of brings me into the real because you're right. I mean, sometimes it's like when you're having a conversation with somebody, you're like, where are they at right now? They are
Yeah.
not here. They're literally looking through me, right? Like their mind is somewhere else. So okay, I'm following on that. When I do appreciate when things get crazy being in the moment. Like I love when there's absolute chaos. I don't want there to be chaos for everybody, but there is chaos. Like I want to live right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do is I'll immediately get overwhelmed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, right? And I'm like about to detach. And seriously, I do this. It's just, I don't know if it's just a reflex or a habit I've created over the years. I'll literally just do this little giggle. I just laugh a little bit. Like, oh shit, here it is. Like, get ready. We may die today. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I do that little thing, dude. And then I'm there. I'm right in the middle of it. And I'm good. And I zone right in and I make stuff happen.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I never really thought about that.
Yeah. And so I will say that I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That's
And
wild.
I'll do fart noises with my hands sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So again, but these are all things that you can do by thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
How the air feels releasing out of your hands. Like these are all things that we don't think about, but
Mm-hmm.
these are all grounding moments that we can do through having a conversation when shit is hitting the fan and things are overwhelming or we're just not focused that day. Like maybe we had too much coffee and we're just like,
Yep.
dude, having these opportunities to right before you have that conversation or during that conversation, you can think about how your feet feel, right? Your feet in your shoes touching the ground. How does the sock feel? How do your toes feel when you wiggle them? How do your hands feel? Are they cold? Are they warm? Are they touching the thread of a baseball? Like all of these things give you an opportunity to be grounded and present while you're having the conversation.
Yeah, I like that, dude. That's good. And you're right because I mean, especially me, man. My mind is
Mm-hmm.
it'll run 1,000 different directions. It's just like everything's firing at once,
Yeah.
And doing that one little thing will bring you in, just make you zone and actually try to focus on one thing, which is a reset. Yeah, that's cool. I like that thought. So Ed Milet talks about something kind of like this, but he's like it's something that he's created over time. He snaps and like he'll be talking and he'll snap. And he's like, that snap jars me. Like me doing it myself. And I've created these things where I will snap at myself before maybe I engage on something or go in a big conversation or like it's go time. We're about to dig in. It's like I snap. And that like it just makes everything, this muscle memory just line up in me. And it was really cool how he was talking about it. And, he was talking about just creating something like that in your life. It was really neat.
And that's what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, that for him is the grounding moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be just as simple as that. But having that piece, especially for like a high performance person who does easily, one, get distracted, two, find themselves thinking about 6 different things and zoning out of the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
especially when things get heated or things get, you know, fast pace, as we, kind of find ourselves doing. Having these moments where you can put your 2 fingers together and feel the fingerprints on each other,
Mm-hmm.
dude, that's all a moment that you can take to use to ground yourself and being able to address the things that are in front of you, reading
Yeah.
through emails, doing all of it. Because if you're not being present, you're going to have to go back over it. You're going to have to go redo it. And what's that taking from you? Having to go back over that video.
Yeah.
It's taking time.
Yep.
And what is the
Yep.
most valuable piece in everything that we do?
Yeah. It's the time, man. It's the one resource we can't create more of.
Yep. And which also pulls you away. Like you getting distracted, maybe picking up the phone when you shouldn't. Like I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that I can actually catch myself not doing that by simply, okay, I'm being present where I am.
I like it. That's
Because
good.
every time I pick up that phone, it's a distraction piece for me to pull away from what I've got.
Yep.
And then I can think about, instead of doing that, I can think about how do my feet feel, right? How do my hands feel, right? And it's not because you're feeling any type of way. It's just because that moment, your brain's ready to detach from situations and then being able to catch it and say, okay, well, we're not detaching. We're doubling down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is weird how you can subconsciously, you can say, all right, I got to focus on this. And literally 10 seconds into it, you reach over and check something on your phone. I mean, your mind is trying to pull you away from that. So, that's cool, man. That's good information. I like that. This is good stuff to take away today.
Yeah. Just new shit.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool, man. Well, that's it. Let's get after it, guys. If you got anything out of this podcast and you know some people who are pushing and grooving and trying to make stuff happen, and this might be beneficial for them, or maybe you notice that there's some people in your life that have not been present, we're all guilty of it. We all have a problem, or, not a problem, but we all have that situation where we're trying to get things done. Maybe we're not doing that in the best time, right? This past weekend, I had that, right? I had work to do. I had to get things done. And I detached from family time and got on my computer, right? And I didn't catch it until afterward, and I was like, just wasn't happy about it, right? So we all have those moments, and it's important that we recognize those things and have our go-to thing where we can actually be present, whether it's a conversation, whether it's family time, whether it's just time in general. Being able to ground yourself in little things. There's so many ways to do it, and you can find your way. So, guys, we appreciate you. Share this with somebody. If you can think of anyone who would benefit from this, just send it to them. No context. That's okay. But we can't grow this podcast without you. And
Yep.
we do appreciate every single time that you guys jump on and take your time out of your day to listen to us.
Yeah.
So with that being said, don't forget to go check out Jocko Fuel or Origin USA to get you some handmade, man-made, or female-made, USA made stuff. All kinds of stuff. For Christmas, for holidays, for Thanksgiving, for Thanksmas. Get you some of that stuff because they are gonna love it. And then you tell them it's American made and they're gonna even love it even more.
Oh, yeah.
So with that being said, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for all of it. And when you do get to checkout, don't forget to put in the code GRIND10, GRIND10, no spaces at checkout. Save yourself 10% off. James, what are you going to do to them?
Hey, here's a quote I've been pondering. I want you to take with you. See how it applies to you. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasures you seek. Dial in, buckle up, get it fucking done, and get in that cave. Find those treasures. Fear is just another feeling, man. So go get some. Grinder out.